Hello everyone. I wish each and single person of the audience to have a great day today. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Sanna Ratnavel, who is Chairman of Session Committee Consultancy Services, ICW 2020, to let me get a chance to participate as a speaker in India Construction Week 2020. Reviving Construction Industry in Post-COVID World, which is an online international conferences and exhibitions from 1st to 5th of December 2020. Secondly, I will briefly explain how it started and why I choose this topic to decided to speak at this exhibition. About 2 weeks ago, I received a message from him and was invited to talk one presentation for the exhibition. I'm really appreciate and glad to get this opportunity. Then I decided to talk about understanding and guidance on preparing construction workplaces for COVID-19 because this year 2020 is fully affected and having very big impact of the coronavirus all around the world. Every industry slowed down a lot, and even some fully shut down, including our construction industry all around the world. Nobody can tell exactly how and when it will be over. So that we have to start thinking about how can we stay strongly together with this COVID-19 disease, and how can we resume back our works by implementing some necessary prevention methods not to be affected by this coronavirus. That's the main purpose of I create this presentation. The main topic of my presentation is understanding and guidance on preparing construction workplaces for COVID-19. My presentation contains total of 6 sections. 1 is introduction, 2 is about COVID-19, 3 is how COVID-19 outbreak could affect workplaces, 4 control measures to reduce the risk level, 5 guidance on preparing workplace basing on OSHA's recommendations, and finally is the health advisory. Coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 is a respiratory disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. It has spread from China to many other countries around the world, arising to the level of a pandemic. It affects all aspects of daily life, including travel, trade, tourism, food supply, construction and manufacturing, and financial markets. To reduce the impact of COVID-19 outbreak conditions on business, workers, customers, and the public, it is important for all employers to plan now for COVID-19. There are several symptoms of knowing infected by COVID-19. Among those, the most common and dominant symptoms are fever, cough or sore throat, and loss of taste and smell. Here is overview info about COVID-19 and how it spreads to one another directly and indirectly. I summarize into 3 main categories to show how COVID-19 outbreak could affect all kinds of workplaces. Those are absenteeism, change in patterns of commerce, and interrupted supply and delivery. Again, we are going to talk about control measures to reduce the risk level. In this session, I divided into 10 sub-items to explain. 1. Develop an infectious disease preparedness and response plan. Plan should consider and address the level of risk associated with various work sites and job tasks workers perform at those sites. 2. Prepare to implement basic infection prevention measures. The basic guide to avoid the infection is to wash hands frequently and thoroughly. Alternatively, to use alcohol-based hand wraps containing at least 60% alcohol. 3. Job site COVID-19 prevention measures. Practice social distancing. Maintain at least 6 feet physical distancing while in shared spaces. Minimize ride sharing. While in a vehicle, employees must ensure adequate ventilation. 4. Develop policies and procedures for prompt identification and isolation of sick people. Prompt identification and isolation of potentially infectious individuals to protect workers, customers, visitors, and others at a work site. Inform and encourage employees to self-monitor for signs and symptoms of COVID-19. And also need to restrict the number of personnel entering isolation areas. 5. Develop, implement, and communicate about workplace flexibilities and protections. Implement flexible sick leave policies. Maintain flexible policies that permit employees to stay home to care for a sick family member, etc. 6. Implement workplace controls. Occupational safety and health professionals use a framework called the hierarchy of controls to select ways of controlling workplace hazards. During a COVID-19 outbreak, when it may not be possible to eliminate the hazard, the most effective protection measures areas below: engineering controls, administrative control, and PPE. Engineering control involves isolating employees from work-related hazards, which can be the most cost-effective solution to implement without relying on worker behavior. Administrative controls are changes in work policy or procedures to reduce or minimize exposure to a hazard. Safe work practices are types of administrative controls that include procedures for safe and proper work used to reduce the duration, frequency, or intensity of exposure to a hazard. While engineering and administrative controls are considered more effective in minimizing exposure to COVID-19, PPE may also be needed to prevent certain exposures. Now, I'm going to continue on the topic about guidance on preparing workplace based on OSHA's recommendation. OSHA has divided job tasks into 4 risk exposure levels, which are very high, high, medium, and lower risk. Here you can see some examples of those 4 different risk levels. Next, I'm continuing to present what to do to protect workers from those 4 different risk levels. Every risk levels are having 3 types of control measures. Those are engineering controls, administrative controls, and PPE, except for the high and very high exposure risk. For high and very high exposure risk, there is one more control measure safe work practices is required to implement. After all the items had been fully covered, we are to go further again on the topic about health advisory in order to maintain our good health. Here is some tips to reduce contact by 80%. This slide gives some suggestions to follow if one or few people found positive for COVID-19. If we need to travel, please follow these steps and stay safe with the 5 M's. Since we cannot get rid of COVID-19 for the time being, we need to know how to get our workplace ready for COVID-19. According to all those reasons, we conclude we cannot stop and shut down our activities for so long. We need to step out to work, to earn, and to finish whatever we need to finish, our duties and responsibilities. So we need to understand all the pros and cons of our daily life during this pandemic, and we take all the necessary actions and protections to prevent this COVID-19. The game is not over yet. We believe that we can fight it back together. Here is the end of my presentation. Due to the limited time permitted, I've tried to create some important tips to get basic knowledge on the topic to cover. At least someone can get some idea on implementing at your workplace, then it's really a great pleasure for me. If anyone has any question or any clarification required, kindly feel free to contact me at the information provided at the end of my presentation. See you again for upcoming exhibitions and any other occasions if feasible. Thank you. Have a nice day.